Lady.
Oh, yeah, I was in there. Yeah.
Really good.
How you doing?
Doing fine. I see you're on the dance card today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
I need to get in on the bottom floor.
So I think
Yeah.
Get ready for Christmas.
They tell me that.
Yes.
Usually are.
She is
You notice something next week.
Yeah, she was really
Hey Chuck, I called you back the other day. Did you get my message?
I did,
Okay,
but I got busy.
it was too late.
It happened.
I got busy. You were out gallivanting around, you know.
Yeah. It was, I think it was my wife's birthday or something. I forget.
Something important like that. Yeah.
Like
Here with him, Mike.
He's not here.
You're right, that's one he was here. Yeah, I thought it was here.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, near the car wash. Yeah, I don't know.
Almost.
I'm gonna have to put 20-foot inflatable fan. Legit, he's 20 feet tall. He touches my roof.
Blow them up every day.
I don't have to blow him. I keep him blown up, but all we have is like straight ice. And so he like kind of flops it over. He was like sort of like this because the ice was too heavy. I had to pop him back up today.
Can you turn the microphones
He's like
on?
stayed.
Well,
I won't be back to the
there you go.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Check.
If he takes a flight one day.
Hello,
Those Walmart trucks that take him out.
Steve.
Yeah.
Well, I can't for that.
Done.
He's in charge.
I never can see it on. Yeah, there's several of them. That's right.
He's at Sierra.
Yeah. So I'm, it over my section.
They have a platform online for like different businesses and stuff to share medical research.
Cookies and cakes and.
Yeah. So he set up like a makeshift office in the dining room. He's been there since.
So Monday.
I don't know. Like I think he said it would definitely be like after the new year. I know some of those companies are like June.
He's got all that. Marty.
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
Hey,
I'm Faye and Francois says that everyone's
Dick said,
And Mike Fisher says.
Can't get out of here. So he won't be here. That sounds like a good excuse. For a short timer. Here's a 17. Ready? We're going to bring this workshop meeting to order. Looks like we do have a quorum. I would like to establish right up front whether Faye and Francois are here virtually. Faye? Okay, thank you. Everyone is here. I'd like to propose a few changes to the agenda. Number one, I would like to move Mr. Bill Gentry's presentation up to right underneath number 4, between 4 and 5. So if he wants to go home after his presentation, he can do that, but he is more than welcome to spend the rest of the evening with us. Also, I'd like to add Peter Work attended the last Board of Supervisor meeting, and he made some really good notes on that, and I think we should review those to see if everybody has looked at them. Also, I would like to discuss a nominating committee for new officers for the Planning Commission for next year. Having said all that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? All in favor? All in favor, say aye. Thank you. All right. First thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes for the October 21, 2020 workshop. Anybody have any comments, suggestions, proposed changes? If not, can I get a motion to approve those minutes? I got a first. Faye, was you a second? Okay. We got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, ladies, speak up out there. Okay. All right. Thank you. Those minutes are approved. Very good, Nan. Thank you. Ligon has also made up a list of all the meetings for next year. I think that's fine. Anybody have any comments, questions on that? If not, thank you very much. Mr. Gentry.
We would have very much for inviting me this evening. Earlier, I was talking to Cardi just to confirm coming here this evening. And I told him that it's important if you could put me up earlier in the agenda. I'd appreciate it because my wife and I have gotten into watching Perry Mason and Madeline.
Me too.
And we're happy with that. So it's all good. But listen, thank you so much. You asked me to come and talk to you about Mr. Whelan's project, South Park, and what's happening with that. I would like to preface it by saying on the behalf of the Whelan family and everybody that's been working with them, we really do appreciate what the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors have done to support the project. It's been a long and winding road, and we all know you never go from A to B anymore. It's all those things in between, and we really do appreciate it because we feel that right now we're on the cusp of a very good project here in Madison County. About a week and a half ago, our contractor, which is Carlisle Weaver Works, they They went in and paved the road. So it really has taken shape. I don't know if you've all been back in there and looked at it, but it really is a beautiful work of art when you look at what people can start with and what they can finish with. As soon as the weather improves a little bit, Carlisle's got to fix the shoulders a little bit and run the water line perpendicular to 29 and run it up the reverse frontage road. So that'll be pretty much it as far as all the construction work for the first phase. First phase is about 850 linear foot of road built to state specification, serviced by public water. And when any individual end user comes in there, there'll be, depending upon what their electricity needs are, the electricity will be brought to them. It'll be brought in conduit. As you come in when you come in on Madison Plaza Drive, you take a left to go into reverse frontage road. On that first lot, it's 2.5, roughly 2.3, 2.5 acres. That's under contract right now to a medical related business that I think will be very, very well received here in Madison County. Mr. Whelan did turn down an offer on the first two lots about 2.5, 3 months ago, but it wasn't in keeping with what he wanted to see in there. He wants mostly a business park in there, nothing that's really hard commercial. He's got, that's been his vision for the last number of years when he started to have an office park. Now, it doesn't mean certain types of retail won't be coming in there, but at least for the first phase, that's what he would like to see. So we're real excited. The party that's under contract right now, it's not a zoning issue, it's strictly a site plan issue. So they're using local engineers at Hinchy and Baines and Culpeper, and they're going to be doing the site plan for the contract buyer. So if all goes according to Hoyle and things work out, probably within 9 to 12 months, they'll close. Now, with the planning commission and the board approved was the first phase, the first 850 linear foot of this project. If we have another interested party that wants more land than what we have in the individual lots right now, the planning commission and the board of supervisors approved the reverse frontage road that goes from Madison Plaza Drive, goes down towards the Estes property, and takes a left, goes out there across from Jackie Graves. And we have northbound, southbound, taper, decel proffers to state specification. And so if we have someone that comes and wants land in addition to what we have right now, we can go ahead and just survey off what we need, bring it before the planning commission and board. And it's not a zoning issue, it's strictly you divide it. And then we can go ahead and start building the road. Mr. Whelan has all the approvals, not only from the county, but most importantly, DEQ, because that's been a real rascal to deal with. In fact, we had to go to the state director to get this project approved. Fortunately, it's done and a little face-to-face meeting worked out. So the road can go ahead. Carlisle would have to get come and post it through Mr. Whelan, post a bond, but DEQ has already approved all the land disturbing activity for the road. So a lot of that preparatory work, a lot of time and money, I think it will pay off in the long run for us. So if the economy remains strong for a while, let's hope it does, then that will provide, I think, opportunity not only for Mr. Whelan, but any potential business and Madison County. Yeah. But we do appreciate everything that everybody's done. And we've brought some brochures that shows the lot configuration. The first one going in on the left is the one that's under contract right now. Y'all have any questions right now for me?
I do, just one. I was just curious. Let's say that it takes 1.5 years, 2 years, which we hope it don't, to build up the first phase, and you go into the second phase. Is there a time limit on your DEQ permit for the second phase?
None. Well, when I say that, there has been none that's been conveyed. Okay? But one way I can preface the response to that, that's a very good question, is if I went out 15 years ago and got a certification, 20 years ago, got a certification permit to put in a drain field. And I go back to the health department today, even with the certification letter, there could be a little wrinkle right there, even with a cert letter. So you never really know. But basically, they've approved the road as the engineering supports. And so what we're told, we have to notify them that we're going to be doing a land disturbing activity, come to the Madison's building department's office, soil erosion control, pay the bond for the amount of the contract for the land disturbing activity and go with it. So anyway, a lot of preparatory time and money went into it, but I think it sort of set us up for something positive. And also on another related matter, we do appreciate everything the Planning Commission, the board has done with Carlisle's property behind the food line for the R3, the multifamily, for the BHDA tax credit project. We've been dealing with that either in a, as far as the senior housing, we tried that for a number of years, but there wasn't enough numbers that would generate that as far as scoring points. But on the 60-unit project, the super development's under contract, they're doing their due diligence, and hopefully it'll go through. But there's so many little ins and outs of these things. It's not done until it's done, like a lot of things. But the 60-unit project in Madison, and a point that you made, Pete, at a few meetings ago, is that even though it's not SR just for seniors, there's going to be a lot of seniors that will likely go in there because it has an elevator, which is good. And as we get older, we don't like to or can't climb stairs. And it's in a very good location for your teacher, whether you're retiree, whatever. So hopefully the developer will take those steps across the finish line. But we do appreciate everything the Planning Commission and the board has done.
Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Any questions? Any more questions? This is all positive for the county. Appreciate you coming in, give us an update. We might have to call on you again in the future.
I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one case on the agenda tonight. Mr. Webb?
Yes, sir. Special use permit, Mr. Dwyer, right here. Richard Dwyer had came in the office a couple weeks ago and applied for a special use permit. He owns the building that is subject to a special use permit, 1355 North Seminole Trail. Had a little hard time finding it because it's a 3-acre parcel and it kind of goes back in dog legs. That's the majority of the parcel is really in the rear. It's a little grown up, but as you can see from the pictures, it's quite a project for him to undertake, but he's more than up to the task. So I'm happy to see the building put back in use. There's actually right beside it. I should have got a picture of it. If you're not aware, there is a unit right beside it. They actually use Mr. Dwyer's entrance to go into park at that existing unit. Looks like it's 4 units right here. So I guess the only real concern is just VDOT's comments, and you can see my email. There is an entrance right there. I don't suspect VDOT's going to have any issues as far as requiring any taper lanes or anything like that. So they are looking at it. We'll get the recommendation soon. Should have that before the 6th. I've told Mr. Dwyer, as far as utilities go, it's going to be 4 bedrooms. So it's, basically, I think using a septic system is fine. At this point, he wants to wait to perk and all those type of things, but it shouldn't be an issue. Gravity flow down the hill to the back there, I believe. So he most likely perk that just like the house that house there has a drain field, but I'm sure it's probably not functioning in a well. So I don't see any issues with it being supported by a septic in a well. Otherwise, our situation with our rentals in Madison are pretty much non-existent. So, having more rental properties introduced, I think is a good thing, and seeing a building that obviously is in danger to be improved. Looking forward to this potential rehabilitation. So Other than that, any questions for me on this or?
Well, you got VDOT. I saw your letter to VDOT, but I'm assuming after all these years, your septic system and water, from the looks of the building, has not been in operation sometimes. And you're going to have to get the health department, if I'm correct,
Sure,
Matt,
yeah.
to get to approval for the drain field, either existing one or a new one, whatever, and a new well. Okay. And have you even started that process yet?
Not yet, because I wanted to see if we were moving forward here.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You intend to renovate the existing building, not rebuild it.
That's right. I mean,
Tear it down, build a new one.
you're going to keep the building.
Keep the building that's existing.
My other comment on that is, as you know, the health department is historically very slow. Now, you're planning on putting this back on the agenda for the joint meeting,
Yeah, this will be on the agenda for the joint meeting as a public hearing.
and we probably will not have health department.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, he's gonna have to submit building plans, a building official, those are administrative tasks that he can get done.
Okay.
I don't think he needs to do it now for approval. He's not gonna be able to occupy unless he has water and sewer. So whether that means if he can't perk it, then we can look at other options, but I feel like it's gonna be okay to perk, and get a septic in there. So I don't think that needs to be done before it's approved, in my opinion. I mean, just like he doesn't need to submit building plans right now, we know he has to meet the building codes and satisfy the building official, firewalls and all that stuff. So I just think for the planning commission, the board, just sort of look at it from a use, is that an appropriate use there, which see what's being used for now. So I think that being rehabbed and 4 apartments would be a nice addition.
Anybody else have any questions from the planning commission?
That's kind of a different tactic for us to approve before the health department, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, but I mean, again, until he gets approved, he's not going to submit construction plans or those things until he's approved. And again, we can sit around and wait for a few months to get back, his head and perk and all that, get the test, the health department, have them say it's okay. But again, I think that the planning commission board would probably just be more concerned about the use and realizing that, yeah, there's some administrative things that he has to get done. And until we have the well and the septic site.
The reason Nan brings that up is because we have been told in the past that we should not approve. Now, this is a special use application, not a site plan. I forget which way the ordinance reads, but we have been told in the past that we should not approve applications until we have health department and approval on this kind of stuff. Is that where you're coming from?
Who told you that?
We have been told by the board of supervisors.
Board of supervisors.
Yeah, I guess we can, but
Administrator.
So that's why she asked. the
Right.
question. And you were not here when that took place.
Sure.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, but I just,
Would it help if I have a soil scientist to go out there and do the soil work and have that prior to y'all's January 6th meeting? It won't be health approved, department approved, but it'll be through a soil scientist.
And normally the health department has to go along with whatever the soil scientists have to say. That's correct.
It's state certified.
Yeah, licensed soil scientist.
And not to tell you what to do, sir, but you would probably be a lot faster and a lot better off.
Exactly.
No, I can do that. I can have that.
That would help. Anybody else?
I just want to make a comment, Mike. I've seen some of the projects that he's took on and done, and when he finishes, it's real nice, real respectful.
Well, I hope this one turns out just as good. As Ligon said earlier, we have a shortage of housing in Madison County. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else, Mr. Webb? That's all. Okay. Moving on. Some time ago, I asked Peter Work and Francois to look into the broadband issue in Madison County. And since that time, thank you very much. Hey, Richard. Peter and Francois has issued a 18-page report on their findings, which is very detailed and informative. And I hope everyone has read that. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. So I just made recommendations and so forth. Mr. Work, you need a microphone.
I don't, if everybody can hear me.
Okay.
Our chairman articulated our assignment, and we carried it out, or tried to carry it out. I must say that neither Francois nor I have technical expertise in this area. But we have talked with people, I think, have some expertise. And on that basis, we produced this report. Has everybody read it? I can greatly shorten this presentation if you have.
Faye, Francois, I'm sure Francois has read it. Faye, have you read it? Okay. All right.
The basic message, in short, is that Madison County is way behind neighboring counties with respect to extending broadband to our entire population. This is an area that the state is focusing on, the FCC is focusing on, neighboring counties are all focusing on, and we're behind. In the time since the disbandment of the Madison Broadband Committee in 2017, very little has happened in this county with regard to the expansion of broadband. There have been some projects. The county and the Board of Supervisors did approve and support an application that Clint Hyde and his company, Madison Megabyte, submitted to the state in 2018 for 2019 funds, but that application was unsuccessful. There has also been a project launched by Graves Mountain Lodge to extend fiber optics from Madison out to Syria. That project is ongoing with the participation of Madison Megabyte, but that is solely or principally for Graves Mountain Lodge's customers, not the general public. And at this point, I don't believe there are any plans to make that project available and its results to private citizens or businesses out that way. There has also been the installation of fiber optic trunk lines along Route 29, and that will benefit some businesses, but no homes. And that's about the extent of it. Francois and I did, as we indicated in the report, contact other counties, and literally every county that neighbors Madison County has a proactive program to extend broadband to their citizens. And they are taking advantage of funds that are available, truly available, at the state level through several organizations of the Department of Housing and Community Development, an organization called BODI, the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, something called the Commonwealth Broadband Team, and something called the Commonwealth Broadband Coalition. And you may remember some discussions in this group last fall about whether or not we should submit an application. We as a county should submit an application to body for CARES funds. And there was a fair amount of publicity about that. And we didn't submit an application, yet our neighboring counties did. Orange County, for example, got almost $2 million for a fiber optics project, which they have almost completely installed by this time. So that's where we are. At the federal level, there is a program, much like the rural electric program in the 1930s, that's called the Digital something or other fund. And that fund has billions of dollars, and we aren't going after them. Those funds are funds that providers, often in partnership with local jurisdictions, are pursuing for the purpose of extending broadband, the objective being universal broadband in rural areas, of which Madison is one. That program could well benefit us, but we have to go after it. You've all heard, I suspect, about Elon Musk's Starlink program. The thought being that he'll put up thousands of satellites, communication satellites, over a period of time. And under that FCC program, Musk was awarded, believe it or not, $886 million. And there's another provider called Charter, which got over $1 billion just this last fall. Another interesting part of this is that REC, Rappahannock Electric Co-op, applied for funds, I believe, and talking with officials at REC, that they were awarded those funds. There's a silent period when they can't say. But looking at the map of their awards, it's pretty clear that some providers got funds to serve the Virginia Piedmont and this area. So that's one optimistic approach. I'm going to have Francois. Can you hear Francois? Okay, there will be two of the counties that we contacted are Albemarle and Orange. Francois, why don't you talk about those two counties and what they're doing? Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. You were finished with your presentation, Francois? Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Porter.
I might mention briefly a couple of other developments. Is this too much?
Just a touch. I'm awake.
One of them is in Culpeper County, which is a little late to the game. But they have now formed a group, not an official authority, but a group that is moving quickly. They partnered with a broadband company by the name of All Points Broadband, which is up in, I think, Leesburg. They competed in the body program in the fall. They got an award, and they're moving ahead very rapidly. They'll use that award to connect on a temporary system about 3,800 homes in Culpeper County. Another county somewhat late to the game is Rappahannock County, but they've now formed an official authority called the Rappahannock County Broadband Authority, and they're moving ahead as well. So hate to say it, but we're behind, and we need to pick up our game. So what do we recommend, Francois and I? There is in our memo, there is a list of steps put out by the Commonwealth Broadband team for counties in our position, step-by-step process. The first steps are to decide officially as a county to pursue universal high-speed broadband coverage and to consult with the Commonwealth Broadband team as we get started. It is our strong recommendation, Francois and I, that we start down this list of steps with the objective, ultimately, of developing an authority, not a committee, but an authority that has governmental authority to pursue universal broadband coverage. Further down the Commonwealth broadband teams list, there's a recommendation to consider forming such an authority. As I say, that is our recommendation as well. Other important steps on the team's list are identifying financial resources, and I understand that has been an issue, and that was an issue back in the days of the Madison Broadband Committee. Further partnering with internet service providers such as REC, and in fact, in Francois, in my view, REC is the most likely and the best candidate for partnering with to move us ahead. Developing a detailed plan is a further step, competing for available funding, and executing the plan. There are two developments that we talk about in the memo that I think are encouraging. One is REC. We know, as I said, that REC competed in the FCC's recent competition. In talking with their people, I believe that they got an award and that we will shortly hear about the award. They said they are very interested in talking with us. And that would be the best solution, to have fiber on their poles, and it would reach the entire county. That is the best solution that we can pursue if in fact they did get it. The other potential possibility for Madison County and other counties is the Starlink program, Elon Musk's program. As I said, that involves funding and sending up thousands of communications satellites. Their award covered 35 states, and Virginia was one of them. And that could greatly help us, but it wouldn't be as good as fiber. It's not as effective, it is not as fast, and if we can get fiber in this county, we have gotten ahead of the curve. So that's what we recommend based on our short investigation. Happy to take any questions. I would suggest that now or at some point in the near future, we address where we go from here.
Thank you, Peter. Just one thing that you said I didn't quite follow, that you started talking about some other steps before the county would recommend or form an authority. It seems like to me that if we're going to move on, it's just my opinion, that we just create an authority and get all this stuff rolling as soon as possible. I don't know all the ins and outs about an authority and all the legal ramifications, but those seem to be what all the other counties are doing. So I didn't quite understand that, but I do understand your recommendation for creating the authority.
Well, I think probably the first step in this is what the Commonwealth broadband team said was an initial step, create an advisory committee. I'm not seeing that as a long-term solution. In fact, I would oppose that as a long-term solution. I think our solution lies in the development of authority that has governmental authority to compete in these competitions and to make decisions. But as I say, we need to bring some expertise to the authority. And as an initial step, we might, as the team suggests, create an advisory authority with several people, but not only our newcomers in the field like Francois and I, but people who have some expertise. Ren LaValle, I don't know how many of you know him. was the chair of the Madison Broadband Committee. He really does that. And while he's not willing to get back in this effort, he's given us some names of people who served on the committee that are, or that he thinks maybe. And so that's one way to get this started. I think we're a little ways off from creating an authority, but it would be well to lay it out.
So your recommendation is that that the county would create an advisory committee first?
Yeah, to operate, only to get the effort started.
Right. Yes, Francois?
I can speak to that.
All right, Mr. Gregg, you had something to add to that? Francois says they can do it.
I do. Virginia passed a law, and I think I'm the one who brought it up several years ago. Let me explain the underlying issue. The rights of way that were granted for the Rural Electrification Act were exclusively for electricity. And that's the way most people's deeds read. I haven't read everybody's deed, but I encountered this issue in some work I was doing privately. And the problem is you cannot expand the scope of an easement that easily. Now, Virginia, anticipating these issues, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3, passed a law that ostensibly enabled people to do that. And Rappahannock Electric, together with Central Virginia Electric Cooperative and some others relying on that new state law, have taken that position. There has been a lawsuit filed, I believe, in the Western District of Virginia. I believe it is Grano, Grano versus REC, and I believe the Commonwealth of Virginia, challenging the constitutionality of that particular law. And their theory for it is that it is an unlawful taking from private homeowners. And the Granos, as I understand it, own property over which Rappahannock Electric Cooperative would intend to, place, these utility lines, for the purposes of broadband and those types of things. I don't know where that case currently stands. I believe the lawsuit was filed in either September or October. It could have even been early November. So it is very early in the process. If the federal courts declare that Virginia's statute is constitutional, then I think Rappahannock Electric is clearly the best way to go, because you already have most of your infrastructure in terms of what's there, and there's just a matter of hanging the fiber optic cables along their poles. In the meantime, that issue is still out there. It may be appropriate to pursue other avenues until we have some clarity as to what the federal courts might do on this issue. That's my 2 cents.
So it is not a clear-cut case at this time. That
You are absolutely right with that. And the issue is you're only allowed to use the poles for electricity. If you add an additional use that is of a somewhat different character, such as fiber optic line, the argument is that the deeds do not grant the utility company the right to do that.
I agree with what Sean has to say. It is an issue and it is an issue of litigation at this point. But I think that issue will be overcome. With regard to the lady's mention of the school system, there is one positive development that I should have mentioned from that source. And that is that the school board, I guess, bought some 500 of these mobile units that connect with cell phones for the benefit of Madison County school kids. And I think that program is operational now. So I think that is a positive.
So if the board decided to form an advisory committee to work on this, they would take all of that into consideration, I'm assuming. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else on the planning commission? Comments, statements, observations? Mr. Elliott?
I guess I got two. One is, Clay, maybe you could help us with this. Most of this money that's in grants is matching grants, I'm assuming, correct? I say most of this money that's in grants, is it matching grants? Or do you know, sir?
There are some that are matching and then there's some that's in kind.
And number two is the reason that they got banned and disbanded in 17 because there was nobody doing anything. We're talking about people that was on that committee. Well, I certainly want to see them get put back on another committee if they wasn't doing anything on the committee they were on.
I mean, they were doing stuff. It sort of just fell apart in the summer. It was fine with me. I was like 8.5 months pregnant, but yeah, it totally fell apart.
Rappahannock County went from, they had a broadband committee that for 3 years didn't really do anything. In 1 month, they went from nothing to a broadband authority. Margaret Bond, who lives out in Nethers, real close to Madison, is the instigator. That's who you need to talk to. She would probably give you everything that she did to get the authority up and running. Why reinvent the wheel when you can steal from somebody else?
Thank you. We'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
Just a note with regard to what Pete said, the broadband committee actually did a good deal of work. They produced a report called the Path Forward Report. And what that Path Forward prescribed as the first step was issuing RFPs to providers. The board at that time was unwilling to give the committee that authorization, and the committee was asked to expand.
Okay.
No, I don't think that's right, because I was here the day that happened. I don't recall that at all.
Now,
Mr. Jackson?
I don't remember it like that. I remember that it's something, they studied a lot.
Yes.
They did tremendous amounts of studying. I don't remember them coming and presenting to us. Maybe it's slipping me. I don't remember them coming and presenting. Did they?
I think so. The problem,
They're trying to,
it ended up being that the way the FCC views their maps, it makes it look like Madison actually has lots and lots of coverage.
based on the high
When
speed
they
that's on
don't.
Main Street is one of the main
Yeah,
issues.
and that's what sort of became the end issue. There was
But-
like nowhere to go.
One of the other things was it was a lack of action. Jonathan Weekly served.
He was
on
on
it.
there, yeah.
And the lack of action that they made, it was his motion to disband the authority.
here's the report.
Nothing was
Called
happening.
Path Forward. Its first recommended step was to issue RFPs to providers. According to La Valley, I had no independent knowledge. According to La Valley, they were not authorized to.
Well-
And they received a letter ordering them to expand.
All right, we could, sit here all night and talk about what happened, what ifs and all that kind of stuff, but the bottom line is, we need to try to move on here. And right now, where we're headed, it sounds like to me, based on a recommendation of Peter and Francois, that we should serve or ask the board to to establish some type of an advisory committee, which would in turn lead into hopefully a recommendation of establishing an authority. Okay, I have that right?
Right.
So at our next meeting, or would you like to take a vote on that tonight? Can we vote on that tonight, that proposal? Or-
really vote tonight. Tonight's a workshop.
Okay. All right, I guess I'm in a hurry. So at the next meeting, which is on January the 6th,
But you can certainly communicate what you want to do to the board of supervisors. I think they may already know.
I strongly suspect so. Okay, at our next meeting, which is January the 6th,
They can. You can restrict them.
okay,
And that's the issue. I think that was the issue the last time it came up.
Yeah.
all right. At our next joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors, January the 6th, is my understanding. If the Planning Commission so desires, someone can issue a motion and we will vote on it, on how we want to proceed with this. Apparently something needs to be done to move things forward, in my humble opinion. Anybody else got anything they want to add to that?
General comment, but you're working with REC is in hearing that they possibly got an award is probably the most, I agree with you 100%. That is the most sound way. The easement litigation is really challenging. But they have a backbone that can facilitate this. And that may be a direction. That's very positive.
And in that regard, Mr. Jackson, the Commonwealth of Virginia was not originally a party in that litigation, but the Attorney General has, I think last week, filed a petition to intervene in the lawsuit. So it is likely that, the issue is it's going to come down purely to that constitutional issue, which makes a lot of sense. And you would hope that you would get an answer fairly quickly, but one never knows. On a somewhat related matter, another place to look for some funding on this, my understanding, and Mr. Hobbs can probably correct me, the U.S. Department of Agriculture also has some funding available for these things. My understanding is that they have 3 levels, and again, this is based on a conversation I had with Mr. Hobbs earlier. Some of it is 100% grant money. Some of it is 50% grant money, and then the other is a combination of kind of work that's available and all the rest of it. The reason I mention that is because most of these projects require some upfront money, and it would be helpful, and most counties do this through their Department of Economic Development. This is kind of that bailiwick. If that were something that were feasible, and if Tracy has the time to devote to it, that might be a way to go. I'm not trying to assign work to anybody else, but just something to think about.
Mike, one.
Yes, Peter.
Akin to that, this is Francois' idea.
I think Francois was asking.
Oh, go ahead, Francois. All right, let me pick up the microphone here. Francois had the idea when we were discussing possible sources for money that our industrial development board might agree to pursue a bond issue if, to the extent that county funds were necessary. You want to supplement that, Francois?
Over there.
All right, first off, I think we have to make a decision here if we're going to move forward on this. The recommendation is for an advisory committee, and then from there, we can go on with all of the ins and outs and what ifs. But to get things moving, I think we need a separate entity myself and not depend on economic development or the IDA to handle this issue, because this is a one-of-a-kind type deal and it needs specific expertise. That's my humble opinion. So at the next joint meeting, if the Planning Commission so desires, we will have another discussion and ask for a recommendation or a motion on how to proceed. And if that is with an advisory committee to recommend it to the Board of Supervisors, then I think that would be the next logical step. Otherwise, we're just sitting here beating our head against a wall and getting nowhere. So think about that. And if that's what the Planning Commission desires, then we will make that recommendation and move on from there. Okay. Mr. Krigler?
I'm going to compliment Francois and Peter on that report. It was very informative. It very.
Wait a minute, Danny, wait a minute. Go ahead.
I want to compliment Francois and Peter on that report. It was very informative. It was to the point, and I was very surprised to learn how far our adjoining counties has gotten and how far we were behind. Thank y'all very much. Y'all hear me?
Didn't hear you, Jerry.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yep. If there's nothing else on that issue, we're going to move on to the next issue. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Francois. I think you did a fantastic job, as Mr. Krigler pointed out. Okay. We have another issue here about medical recreational cannabis as relates to local land use. That was discussed in the last Board of Supervisor meeting that I was there and Peter was there. An interesting proposal. It sounds like to me it would be down in the old box in, box out office, and or land and building down there, and that is zoned for a commercial operation, and this would be a commercial operation, if I understand it.
It's actually industrial
Okay.
greenhouses cover. This is really just for informational purposes. I just found it interesting, the conversation at the state and how it will play out at the local level. With the medical cannabis, there really hasn't been any sort of guidance on how localities can, plan for this or, maybe not plan for it. When Ms. Fry came in and had the request, I just said, well, regardless of what one might think about medical cannabis or cannabis in general, from my perspective, from the zoning perspective, you just look at what they're doing. It's basically a greenhouse. It's a growing facility. So I just told her, I felt like that was something that, what was being proposed there, would sort of be similar alike. That's why I wrote the letter. But I thought it would be, maybe just to start having a larger conversation about, what the future could look like when it comes to cannabis. With the medical facility, now there are a lot of places competing for this, and they did kind of come in a little bit late. So the board was willing to, give it a listen and give it an endorsement. So I appreciate that, relatively short amount of time, they came in and we said, look, the county is something, this is a business or potential use for this building that interests the county. So I appreciate the board. I don't like to throw things on them in a quick like that. But again, they're willing to accommodate and listen and have an open mind about it. So I think that was very good. As far as recreational, it's going to be taken up at the legislature this winter, from what I understand. Again, I don't know what the guidance will be for localities. My preference would be that any kind of dispensary or place that sells cannabis would need a special permit and need, local sort of land use guidance. And if a locality doesn't want a dispensary, they don't have to have one. I think that's pretty much how it has worked in other states. Just off the top of my head, looking at different literature and talking to people and, reading articles and talking to people in the field. So, I think it should be a fairly simple proposition. And I believe one of the articles that I gave you that had 8 sort of highlights, the last one it talked about was local land use. And, will it be something that, is by right, like think wineries or breweries, or is it something that, again, you'll have to go to your locality, and if you want to, sell cannabis, then you'll need, in this case, a special use permit. And that's the way I would prefer it. Personally, that's what I would lobby for if I was in the ear of my legislator, is that the localities do retain the ability to regulate recreational dispensaries. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that commission or the county board really has to do. Just kind of sit back and wait and see what happens in the legislative session and see what guidance the state gives the locality as far as how we can approach this from a land use perspective. Just kind of put it on everybody's radar, and we should know in a few months.
Thank you. Appreciate you keeping us updated on that. Any questions, comments from the planning commission? Mr. Carpenter?
I'm kind of confused a little bit here. This is what, if I'm reading this correctly, this is basically growing cannabis. It's not a dispensary, not a processing.
That's right. That's what I understand. They just grow, then it goes to the next step. Whoever, they'll process it and I guess produce it, and then it would go to a medical dispensary.
And this is not something the planning commission will be involved in, I don't think, as far as voting on an issue.
No. And again, I mean, it's really competitive. There's one that there's, from what I understand, there can be one facility per each region of the state. And it's, I mean, coming in and getting this letter, I mean, it just says that, hey, it's from a planning perspective, from the board, they're supportive. But I mean, it's highly competitive, and that's the easy part. I mean, the difficult part will be, getting through the Board of Pharmacy and being that one facility for the region that's approved. Because, quite frankly, it seems like everybody is competing for it. But we do have a good facility, man, good facility.
That's the dispensaries that you're talking about there. That's not the grower.
No, this is the grow. I mean, the one that, right.
But what you were talking.
Right, what I was
now,
talking
the
about. So
dispensaries.
right. So when it's recreational, I say when, I feel like it will be passed, but, can everybody just open up a farmer? Is that something they can do by right and just grow? And, so I think they
They're
talk.
growing it by right now.
Yeah, right. Or,
Our pressury, the experience we've had with that, she's trying to grow hemp.
mm-hmm.
She has all kinds of state regulations. It's still, if her crop goes over a certain percentage of THC, she has to burn it.
That seems kind of silly.
Right, yeah, they destroy it.
You have to have a permit for burn party?
Right. But my point is,
Right.
that I'm getting contradictory information. This was like 3 months ago.
Right.
Learning this. And here we have somebody saying they want to use this building as a greenhouse to grow marijuana.
Right.
For THC.
Right.
I'm not sure, of course, it really isn't up to us, but I'm not sure that's legal in Virginia yet. This dispensary stuff is.
The medical is, but as far as selling.
That's a totally different thing.
Right.
Dispensaries are legal, yes. They haven't said anything about whether you can go out in your field and grow marijuana.
That's right. And that's where the recreational, when it comes this legislative session, we'll see what the.
It's not really up to us, but I just question if she's jumping the gun here on this.
Understand.
Whether she's trying to do something before it's legal.
Well, remember, it's still illegal federally.
Yeah.
It's just the feds that chosen not to enforce the law.
And the plus on this, if this was to happen, it could provide employment for up to 100 people initially and maybe 50 full-time staff after that. I understand.
Growers in Madison.
All right, that would be a plus and additional, that'd be additional taxes for Madison County. Mr. Work, you had something to add to that?
Very little. It's competitive for a good reason. This would be a great development for Madison County if we could attract them. You're right. They said that there would be up to 100 new positions, including some professional positions. I haven't heard anything more encouraging in a long time.
Things are looking up here in Madison County. Okay. Anything else on that? Appreciate you in keeping us advised on that or whatever. If not, Mr. Work was at the last Board of Supervisors meeting where that was discussed and everybody got a copy of his notes and memorandum. Anybody have any questions about that? Peter, anything else you want to point out on that?
He said everything I had to say.
Okay, thank you. That was very nice. I like that. Set a new standard. Okay. I think the last remaining issue on the agenda is I have sent out an email appointing a nominating committee for the new officers for the Planning Commission for next year. Mr. Kregler, Francois, and Steve Carpenter. And I'm assuming y'all will have ready for that at our next, at the meeting.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Very good.
Steve and I have talked this evening. I will be in touch with Francois.
Okay.
Tell her of Steve and my conversation this evening and see if she's amenable to it.
Okay. And whoever is elected as the new officers will take over immediately. So. That was the last thing. That's the last thing on our agenda. Anybody else have anything? If not, yes, Faye. Well, that's the one I have also, and it doesn't have anything on there but large scale solar facility, so. There was something that was voted on recently. I don't know. Okay. My schedule don't have a date on it. All right, fantastic. And I think the new fee schedule was dated 9/22/2020. Is the date I have on the one I have.
Yeah, that last, summer, they adopted a new fee schedule.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you, Faye. Appreciate that. That would be good to get that out of the way. Because there is a hole in that needs to be filled in. Anybody else got anything they wanted to add to tonight's meeting? It's been a good meeting. Mr. Snyder, you have anything you want to add?
Nope, not right now.
Thank you. If not, can I get a motion to terminate the meeting? All in favor, say aye. Stay safe. Thank you.
Sure, we'll run into each other somewhere, Chuck.
That thing doesn't like you.
Go ahead. You too, sir. See you.